backfill and backfilling the old open pit. It has a capacity of about 5 million tons, so it's a form of reclamation, so we're doing a study on that. We're drilling 3 areas right now, and then in Canada at Bralorne, we're continuing to work with the Ministry of Mines, the Ministry of Environment, and First Nations to update permits. We've submitted our base permit, and we're just waiting for a response to be able to move that project forward. We've built a $5 million water treatment plant there to treat the water that runs out of the mine, and so we've been congratulated by the local First Nations for being environmentally responsible, and we've increased the dam capacity. All of this is in anticipation for a restart possibly later next year. And we're planning a drill program for this fall in the gap zones that I mentioned earlier. And the oxide tailings resource in Mexico, this is a big project, and you'll see the economics coming up. Here you can see an overhead shot of Avino. So in geological terms, they call this a window. This is where the veins are exposed on surface. So there's dozens of old mines on our property that date back hundreds of years. We're on a volcanic caldera, which is a very prolific geological system. The Avino vein itself, you can see, is 1.6 kilometers in strike. It's a very large stockwork type system. On surface, it was 180 meters wide. Down where we're mining right now, it's between 10 to 50 meters wide, so it's very robust. We're doing long-hole sublevel caving, which is one of the cheapest forms of underground mining. And we've been drilling in the gap zones in between where you see there where the circles are. To the west of us is Coeur mining with La Preciosa. They're drilling right now. Again, I point that out because of the geological importance. They've got about 150 to 200 million ounces of silver right beside us with no infrastructure. So we're in a prime location. There's other deposits in the area, so we could possibly become a toll milling source for that region at some point. Here's pictures for the expansion that is well underway. These are a little bit dated because the thickener is already in place, and the pedestals are done, and the ball mill is already in place. So we're actually ahead of schedule, but I don't want to jinx it, so we're saying Q1 next year it should be done. It could be sooner. And here's our 43-101 compliant resources. So measured and indicated 3.27 million, inferred 8.2 million, and growing. Based on the 3 drill programs I mentioned, we've been hitting some significant intercepts, and all of this is being sent to an independent engineering firm for a new resource calculation, possibly by the end of the year or early next year. So here's the economics on the oxide tailings. So the CapEx on a standalone basis, because all economic studies must be quoted on a standalone basis. It's not a standalone operation, but basically it calls for $29 million to build it out. We think it'll probably come in around 20 to 22 million. And the internal rate of return pre-tax is just under 50%. So we think we're going to make a lot of money. You can see that over here the total costs will be about $7. So we're excited about that, and that should come online around 2020. Here's a long section of the Bralorne. So you got the King mine to the left, the Bralorne in the middle, and the Pioneer to the right. So we're exploring in the gap zones, and since we acquired Bralorne in Q4 2014, we came out with a new resource estimate, and we're up to about 180,000 ounces. We're just waiting on permits. We want to go in and do about a $3 to $5 million drill program. We're hoping to increase the resources by 50 to 60%. And we're doing similar to what we did in Mexico when we took over the other half of the mine and modernized it. So this is what we did at Bralorne. So we increased the level of the dam capacity by putting a lift on it, fortifying it with a buttress. There was a mine disaster in 2014 called Mount Poly. So a lot of the regulations have stiffened up in BC. So we're abiding by all that, and we've got full access and permit to use the tailings now that we've strengthened it. We brought in new scoop trams, new jumbos. We're looking to transition the mine from labor-intensive stope mining to long-hole mining methods. And so we're moving forward on that. We brought in a new microfiltration water treatment plant, upgraded the surface structures with the first aid building, and we're working on our relationships with First Nations and Aboriginal people. So when the Mount Poly disaster happened, we got approached by North Island Community College. They have an underground mining training program, and they used to send their graduates to Mount Poly for practical experience. So they approached me and said, would we take them on and train them? And so what I did was I introduced them to the Statliam First Nations up in Lillooet, which is the district we're in, and they hit it off great. So we went to the government, and Statliam hosted the cohort. We ran 2 cohorts, and we've graduated 20 students through the program. So we are getting in very well with the Aboriginal First Nations people there. And this particular First Nations group has a big deal with BC Hydro, where they're getting paid over $800 million, and so they're looking ways to invest. So actually, they're not coming to us with their hands out, they're asking how they can invest their money to help communities. So we're looking to build this community back up. They're looking at purchasing the old pub and the motel, and possibly building a camp for us, because we're going to need about 150 people when we get up to full capacity. So we're really partnering up with them and getting in their good books. Analysts and newsletter coverage. So Heiko, who's here, he's got coverage on us. Cantor, Europe Pacific, all the U.S. companies that cover us, mainly because we're listed here in the NYSE American, and that's where most of our volume is. But you can check out their research outside, Heiko's at least, and what his price target is. And so here's our market cap is about 90 million US. I think we're trading around $1.73 today. We trade between 200 and 250,000 shares a day. Major shareholders, Oppenheimer's our largest shareholder, and then I'm second. But we're looking at building up our institutional shareholder base. This is why we're here, to meet you people. And investment case, so we got quality core assets, which with great people, very low labor turnover. Down in Mexico, every time I go there, our parking lot seems to grow with more and more vehicles. And our CEO said to me, why do you think that's the case? I said, well, I'm not too sure. He says, well, because we're employing them and they're coming back from the United States. They're tired of agricultural jobs, and now they can sleep in their own beds and live with their families and have a good job. So you're seeing a lot of people defect and go back to Mexico. So I say if Mr. Trump was able to create more jobs in Mexico, all the Mexicans would leave. They're very patriotic and want to live at home. So we're a low-cost producer, and we'll keep that track record intact. And we've got great growth potential with our other projects and expansion plans. So keep an eye on us. And I have time for questions. Yeah, go ahead, sir. Doug?
2 questions real quick. How are you going to mine the tailings pile in Avino, and how much gold do you think you're going to find at Bralorne?
Well, at Avino, the tailings will be a agglomeration, heap leach, Merrill-Crowe precipitation operation. Well, we have to drill off the rest of it, and because it was an active tailings dam, it was dangerous to put a drill back where the water is. So we have to drill that off so we can make it a reserve, because right now it's indicated an inferred resource. And at that point, we can move the project forward. And if the upper sulfides leach, that's a bonus. If not, they'll have to be removed, and then we can get to the bottom oxides and then reprocess that. Another company called Go Gold is doing that in Mexico successfully. I just wanted to show you some of the pictures of our modern mining fleet. It's all brand new equipment. Yes, sir.
Yeah, David, I didn't quite understand your agreement with Samsung. You said they gave you $10 million, and you're giving them silver to bring to a smelter.
Yeah.
Well, what are they giving you for the silver? Was that part of the $10 million?
For everything. So they negotiated the treatment charges, and so basically the $10 million get deducted from our payments that we get from the smelter. But they came to us and they said, look, we want to extend the agreement. We actually want you to find more metal. We don't care if you pay back the loan ever. We want more metal. They told me they want to find 10 more Avinos. So as long as we extend the agreement, we can push out the loan. We've made a couple payments. It's at spot, no discount. It's the best deal you can get.
Hello, what's the interest on the loan?
It's LIBOR plus 4 3/4. No, it's LIBOR plus 1, isn't it? Yeah. Sorry.
And Samsung is accounting for roughly how much of the output?
They're buying it all. And they've been competitive because we shopped it around with all the companies that purchase it. So
all of the concentrate out of
Mexico, and they're bidding on Circuit 4 concentrate coming up too.
So how many grams per ton are you getting silver?
Well, it's different. At San Gonzalo, the average grade is about 1.5 grams to 2 grams gold and 300 grams silver.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. That helped us start the operation in 2012 and paid for us to dewater and reopen the Avino mine, because the Avino mine was flooded. We had to pump out 1 million cubic meters of water. It took 1.5 years, and that came online at the beginning of last year. And that was our big jump from we went from 1.5 million ounces to 3 million ounces.
So, David, what do you do with the gold, the lead, the copper?
It all goes in the same concentrate to the smelter. They refine it.
You mean Samsung wants that as well?
Well, they want the silver, gold, and copper. There's not enough lead or zinc or anything that's not payable. Yes, sir.
They're not paying for the lead and zinc.
No, it's not high enough grade. Mind you, we found some areas in the San Gonzalo mine that's increasing, so we're monitoring that to see if we can produce a lead and zinc concentrate and get in more payables. Yeah.
So I'm clear on this because I like the company. They're taking everything you can give, and they'd really like you to give them a lot more copper if you could find it.
Mm-hmm. They have a construction arm. They built an LNG plant in Mexico, Kuala Lumpur towers. They build all kinds of stuff. So they can take whatever we can produce. And they originally approached me. It was at the Zurich conference about 3 years ago, and they said, well, Samsung's a family-run business, and that's why we like Avino. Yeah.
What's your percentage, your personal percentage ownership?
I have 1.3 million shares out of 42, so yeah. Been slowly building it up. So if you ever work for your father, they don't like to pay their sons, so I had to take every bonus and buy stock with it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. Appreciate it. And next we have Endeavor Silver.